December 8th, 1941, 0345 hours. Nichols Field, Philippines. The telephone's shrill ring cuts through the humid darkness like a blade. Lieutenant Boyd David Buzz Wagner's hand finds the receiver before his eyes fully open. On the other end, a voice tight with urgency. Pearl Harbor's been hit. The Japs attacked Pearl. You can almost taste the metallic tang of fear that floods the operations room. Wagner's boots hit the floor running. Outside, the tropical night still clings to the airfield, thick and oppressive, but something has fundamentally changed in the universe. The war everyone knew was coming has arrived 7 hours ago and 5,000 miles away. The P-40E Warhawks sit on the flight line like sleeping sharks, their distinctive shark-mouth nose art barely visible in the pre-dawn gloom. Wagner's hand traces the cold aluminum skin of his aircraft. Serial number 41 to 5205. He's flown her for 3 months now, knows every rivet, every vibration of her Allison engine. In 4 hours, she'll save his life for the first time. Captain Ed Dias stumbles from the pilot's quarters, flight suit half-zipped. Buzz, what the hell? Get everyone up. Now. The 17th Pursuit Squadron comes alive like a kicked anthill. 23 pilots, most barely old enough to shave, trying to process the impossible. They'd trained for this moment, run the drills, memorized the procedures. But Pearl Harbor? The Pacific Fleet? Nobody saw it coming like this. Wagner climbs into his cockpit as the first hints of dawn creep across Manila Bay. The familiar smell of hydraulic fluid and aviation fuel should be comforting, but today it carries the weight of prophecy. His squadron represents 1/4 of America's entire fighter strength in the Philippines, 18 P-40 against the Empire of Japan. The radio crackles. Del Carmen Field reports unidentified aircraft approaching from the north. Then nothing. Radio silence. The wait begins that peculiar military purgatory where time stretches like taffy and every shadow could be death approaching at 300 miles per hour. 0815 hours. Finally, the scramble order comes. Wagner's engine roars to life, 1,150 horses awakening with a violence that shakes the entire airframe. The other P-40 follow suit, a symphony of mechanical thunder that drowns out everything else. They taxi fast, too fast for peacetime regulations, but peacetime died 7 hours ago in Hawaii. Wagner leads the first flight of 4 into the air, the heavy P-40 clawing for altitude like it's swimming through soup. The Warhawk was never meant for the Pacific's humid air, she was designed for North Africa's dry heat. Every foot of altitude is earned through sweat and willpower. At 15,000 feet, ice begins forming on the wings. Wagner's oxygen mask chafes against 3 days of stubble. His eyes scan the horizon with the intensity of a man whose life depends on seeing death before death sees him. Then he spots them. 27 twin-engine bombers in perfect formation, approaching Nichols Field like they own the sky. Mitsubishi G-3 Ms. Nells. They'll later call them, each carrying 1,764 pounds of high-explosive death. No fighter escort. The Japanese are so confident, so contemptuous of American defenses, they've sent their bombers naked into hostile airspace. Wagner's voice cuts across the radio static. 17 Squadron, tally-ho. Bombers, 12 o'clock high, follow me in. The P-40 enters its dive like a falling angel. The airspeed indicator climbs past 400 miles per hour. The entire aircraft shudders, protesting against forces it was never quite designed to handle. Wagner's vision tunnels. The lead bomber grows in his gunsight from a speck to a toy to a monster. At 500 yards, he squeezes the trigger. 6. 50 caliber machine guns speak as one voice. The convergence point, set at exactly 250 yards, creates a cone of death that no aircraft can survive. Tracers light up the morning sky like deadly fireworks. The bomber's left engine explodes in a blossom of orange flame and black smoke. It begins a slow, almost graceful spiral toward the jungle below. First blood. Boyd Wagner has just become the first American Army Air Force's pilot to score an aerial victory in World War II. He doesn't know it yet, there's no time for historical reflection when people are trying to kill you. The sky erupts into chaos. P-40 slash through the bomber formation like wolves among sheep. But the Japanese gunners fight back with disciplined fury. A Warhawk, piloted by Second Lieutenant Gus Williams, takes a 20mm cannon shell through the cockpit. The aircraft simply ceases flying, transforming instantly from machine to debris. Williams is 22 years old. He'd been in the Philippines for 6 weeks. Wagner pulls up hard, gravity crushing him into his seat. 4 Gs. 5. His vision greys at the edges. Through sheer will, he keeps consciousness and brings the P-40 around for another pass. Below, Nichols Field erupts in mushroom clouds of smoke and flame. The bombers that got through are doing their work with methodical precision. The fuel depot, the maintenance hangars, the mess hall where 30 minutes ago men were eating breakfast. This is how empire dies, not in grand battles but in desperate scrambles, in young men trying to remember their training while their world burns around them. Wagner and his pilots will claim 5 bombers this morning, but it's like trying to stop a tsunami with a screen door. The Philippines has 7 more hours of peace before the real storm arrives. December 10th, 1941, 1,430 hours. Clark Field, Philippines. The devastation spreads across Clark Field like a disease made of twisted metal and burnt flesh. What had been America's primary airbase in the Pacific 48 hours ago is now a moonscape of craters and corpses. Boyd Wagner stands beside the skeleton of a B-17 Flying Fortress, its aluminum ribs reaching toward the sky like the fingers of a dying man. "We lost 18 40 seconds on the ground," Captain Dias reports, his voice hollow. "Never even got them started." Wagner doesn't respond. There's nothing to say. Half their fighter strength evaporated in 12 minutes of Japanese bombing. The mathematics of defeat are simple and merciless. They started with 72 flyable P-40 seconds in the entire Philippines. Now they have 34. The Japanese have hundreds of fighters and bombers operating from Formosa, and that's just the beginning. The survivors are learning the cruel curriculum of modern war. The P-40 Warhawk, which seemed so formidable in stateside training, is already obsolete. The Japanese Zero can outclimb it, outturn it, outrun it at altitude. The only advantage the American pilots have is diving speed and armor. Dive and shoot, dive and run. Never, ever turn with a Zero. Wagner calls a pilots' meeting in what's left of the operations shack. 15 faces stare back at him, boys pretending to be men, men pretending not to be terrified. He recognizes the look. He sees it in the mirror every morning. "Forget everything they taught you at flying school," Wagner begins. "The Japs have been fighting in China for 4 years. They know their business. We're going to learn ours the hard way, and some of us won't live long enough to graduate." Second Lieutenant Randall Keator raises his hand like he's still in flight school. "Sir? When are reinforcements coming?" Wagner's laugh has no humor in it. "They're not. We're it. We hold the line until we can't anymore." You can actually see the moment when boys become veterans. It's in the eyes, the way hope dies and is replaced by something harder. These pilots will age 5 years in the next 5 days. December 12th. Wagner leads a reconnaissance flight over Lingayen Gulf. Below, the sea is black, with ships, the Japanese invasion fleet, over 70 vessels strong. Transports, destroyers, cruisers, all heading for Philippine beaches. It's like watching a tidal wave in slow motion, knowing you can't run fast enough to escape. Jesus Christ. Someone whispers over the radio. "There must be 100 of them. Cut the chatter." Wagner snaps, but he understands the awe. They're witnessing the death of American colonialism in the Pacific, though they don't have words for it yet. All they know is that each of those ships carries death for everything they're supposed to protect. They dive from 18,000 feet, 4 P-40 seconds against an empire. Wagner picks out a transport ship, fat and slow, probably carrying 1,000 Japanese soldiers. His 6 machine guns perforate its deck like a sewing machine, but the ship doesn't even slow down. It's like attacking an elephant with a needle. They pull up through a curtain of anti-aircraft fire so thick you could walk on it. Tracers and flak bursts paint abstract art in the sky. Wagner's P-40 shudders as shrapnel peppers its belly. Back at Del Carmen Field, the crew chief counts 17 holes in Wagner's aircraft. "You're lucky, Lieutenant. 6 inches higher, and you'd be missing everything below your waist." Wagner lights a cigarette with shaking hands. Lucky. In 3 days, he's learned that luck is the only strategy that matters anymore. December 14th brings a new kind of horror. The Japanese have brought their A6M0s forward to captured airfields. Wagner encounters them for the first time over Bataan, and it's like fighting ghosts. The Zero seems to defy physics, climbing vertically when the P-40 can barely maintain level flight, turning inside any maneuver the Americans attempt. Lieutenant Jack Donaldson tries to dogfight one. It's over in 12 seconds. The Zero pilot, probably a veteran with hundreds of combat hours over China, plays with Donaldson like a cat with a mouse. A quick burst at the perfect angle, and Donaldson's P-40 folds in half, the pilot still trapped in his seat as both pieces tumble toward the jungle. Wagner dives away, the Zero pursuing. 400 miles per hour, 450. The P-40's controls are like concrete, requiring both hands and both feet to maintain control. At 500 miles per hour, rivets begin popping from the wings like bullets. But the Zero can't follow its lighter construction, can't handle these speeds. Wagner escapes into a cloud bank, heart hammering so hard he can hear it over the engine noise. That night, in the suffocating darkness of a blacked-out tent, Wagner writes in his diary, "We're not fighting the last war. We're not even fighting this war. We're fighting the next one with yesterday's tools." December 16th. The squadron is down to 8 operational aircraft, 8 P-40 seconds to defend all of Luzon. Fuel is running low, spare parts are gone. They're cannibalizing crashed aircraft, stripping them like vultures to keep others flying. Wagner hasn't slept more than 2 consecutive hours in a week. When he closes his eyes, he sees tracers. When he opens them, he counts dead friends. But still they fly. Every morning they strap into aircraft held together by wire and prayer, knowing that today might be the day their luck runs out. They're not fighting to win anymore. Everyone knows that's impossible. They're fighting to make the Japanese pay for every mile, every hour, every life. The arithmetic of war has become simple. How many of them can we take with us? December 17th, 1941, 0600 hours, Del Carmen Field, Philippines. Boyd Wagner wipes engine oil from his face, leaving a dark smear across his cheekbone. He's been up all night helping the ground crews patch bullet holes with scraps of aluminum cut from destroyed aircraft. His hands are raw, fingernails caked with grease and dried blood, his own or someone else's. He can't remember. The morning briefing is a joke. Major Harold George points to a map that might as well be fiction. Japanese forces are everywhere. American forces are nowhere that matters. The red pins marking enemy positions look like measles spreading across Luzon's body. "Gentlemen," George says, and the word sounds like a eulogy, "today we're going to attempt something special. The Japanese are landing more troops at Vigan. We're going to hit them with everything we've got. Everything they've got is 6 P-40 seconds, 6 aircraft to stop an invasion." Wagner straps into his Warhawk as the sun breaks the horizon, painting the sky the color of blood. Prophetic. His crew chief, Sergeant Martinez, leans into the cockpit. "She's running rough, Lieutenant. That last Zero put 2 rounds through the oil cooler. I patched it best I could, but she'll hold," Wagner says with more confidence than he feels. "She always does." The formation takes off in pairs, Wagner leading. At 10,000 feet, the engine starts missing. A cylinder isn't firing. The P-40 lurches like a drunk trying to walk a straight line. Wagner adjusts the mixture, plays with the throttle, whispers to his aircraft like a horseman calming a spooked mare. The engine smooths out. Barely. Below, Vigan Beach looks like an ant colony. Landing craft disgorge soldiers by the thousand. Supply trucks create neat lines in the sand. Artillery pieces are being assembled with mechanical precision. The Japanese invasion is a masterpiece of organization, and Wagner is about to attack it with 6 damaged fighters and whatever ammunition they could scrounge. "Remember," Wagner radios, "one pass and out. Don't be heroes. Heroes are dead men with medals. They dive from the sun, using the oldest trick in aerial combat." The P-40 seconds scream earthward at 400 miles per hour, engines howling like banshees. Wagner picks his target, a cluster of fuel trucks parked near the tree line. His gun sight fills with vehicles and men, tiny figures scattering like roaches when you turn on a kitchen light. At 300 yards, he opens fire. The 6.50 caliber guns breathe destruction. Fuel trucks explode in sequence, each detonation triggering the next like dominoes made of fire. An ammunition dump goes up, the explosion so massive it buffets Wagner's P-40 500 feet above. For 30 seconds, 6 American fighters own this piece of sky. They strafe everything: troops, trucks, landing craft, supply dumps. It's not war anymore, it's revenge served at 400 miles per hour. Then the Zeros arrive. They come from above and behind, the direction every fighter pilot checks obsessively but somehow still misses when death really comes calling. Wagner sees them first: 6 silver shapes falling like arrows from heaven. No, not heaven. Somewhere else. "Break! Break! Break!" he screams into the radio. The sky explodes into a three-dimensional knife fight. A Zero slides onto Wagner's tail, so close he can see the pilot's face, young, focused, professionally intent on killing him. Wagner kicks the rudder hard, skidding sideways through the air like a car on ice. The Zero's tracers pass 6 inches from his canopy. He can feel their heat. Lieutenant William Wild Bill Bradford isn't so lucky. A Zero catches him climbing, stitches him from tail to cockpit with 20mm cannon shells. The P-40 doesn't just crash, it disintegrates, transforming from aircraft to confetti in 2 seconds. Bradford never even screams. Wagner performs the impossible, a vertical reverse that shouldn't work in a P-40. The aircraft shudders, stalls, falls backward for a heart-stopping moment before the nose drops and he's diving again. The Zero overshoots, and for one perfect instant, it fills Wagner's gun sight. He fires everything, all 6 guns, burning through ammunition like a gambler throwing his last chips. The Zero's wing root explodes. The aircraft begins a flat spin, unrecoverable, final. Wagner watches it all the way down, sees it impact the beach in a ball of fire and sand. But there's no time to celebrate. His ammunition is gone. The engine is overheating catastrophically. The temperature gauge has passed red and entered some new color that hasn't been named yet. Oil pressure dropping, fuel low, and 3 Zeros are converging on him like wolves that smell blood. Wagner does the only thing left. He runs, dove for the deck, racing along at 50 feet, so low that his prop wash kicks up dust. The Zeros follow, but they're cautious now. They've learned that these American pilots, outnumbered and outclassed, will still bite. The engine finally gives up 10 miles from Del Carmen. It doesn't fail dramatically, it just stops, like a heart that's beat its last beat. Wagner has 12 seconds to pick a landing spot. A rice paddy, relatively flat, only partially flooded. He puts the P-40 down hard, gear up, sliding through mud and water and Filipino agriculture for 200 yards before stopping. He sits in the cockpit for a full minute, hands shaking too badly to unbuckle his harness. When he finally climbs out, he counts 14 new bullet holes in his aircraft. One passed between his legs, through the seat, missing his anatomy by inches. A Filipino farmer approaches, carrying a bottle of tuba, the local coconut wine. Wagner takes it, drinks deeply, tastes life and fear, and something else, the knowledge that he's living on borrowed time. By evening, he's back at Del Carmen. Of the 6 P-40 seconds that took off that morning, 4 returned. The mathematics continue their inexorable subtraction. Tomorrow they'll have 3 flyable aircraft, maybe 4 if the mechanics work another miracle. Captain Dias finds Wagner sitting alone, staring at nothing. "Buzz, we can't keep this up. We're down to slingshots and harsh language." Wagner lights his last cigarette. "Then we use slingshots and harsh language." "That's not a strategy." "Sure it is," Wagner says, exhaling smoke into the tropical darkness. "It's called buying time. Every day we keep fighting is one more day for someone, somewhere, to figure out how to win this war." He doesn't mention what they both know, that the someone won't be them, and the somewhere won't be here. They're already dead men. The only question is how much company they'll take along. December 20th, Sembilin 947. Noli 1 Redden Howers. Bataan Peninsula. Philippines. Wagner jolts awake to the sound of artillery, Japanese 75mm guns working over the American positions at Layak Junction. The thunder rolls across the jungle like God clearing his throat. He's been sleeping in his cockpit again, the only place that feels safe anymore. The P-40's armor plating has become his security blanket. 3 days ago, He was promoted to captain and given command of the 17th Pursuit Squadron. The previous commander, Major George, caught a piece of shrapnel the size of a playing card. He lived for 6 hours, long enough to hand Wagner the squadron's tattered roster and whisper, "Try to save some of them." Some of them. The roster reads like a casualty list waiting to happen. 8 pilots left from the original 23, 8 pilots and exactly 2 operational P-40 seconds, one of them held together with baling wire and Filipino prayers. Dawn brings worse news. General MacArthur has declared Manila an open city. The great retreat to Bataan has begun. 250,000 soldiers and civilians streaming down 2 roads, while Japanese aircraft turn the exodus into a shooting gallery. Wagner receives his orders via a messenger who looks like he hasn't slept since Pearl Harbor. Provide air cover for the withdrawal. Use all available aircraft. All available aircraft. Wagner laughs, a sound like breaking glass. He calls over Sergeant Martinez. "Can you get both birds in the air?" Martinez looks at the P-40 seconds, one missing half its engine cowling, the other with fabric patches covering holes in the control surfaces. "They'll fly, Captain. How long and how far? Only God knows." "God's not flying today," Wagner mutters. "Just us mortals." He takes off at 0630, Lieutenant Russell Church as his wingman. 2 P-40 seconds to protect an entire army. They climb to 15,000 feet, where the P-40 seconds wheeze like asthmatics. Below, the roads to Bataan are rivers of humanity trucks, tanks, ox carts, women carrying children, soldiers carrying wounded, everyone carrying fear. Then Wagner sees them, a squadron of Japanese Sally bombers approaching from the north, flying in perfect formation like they're on parade. No fighter escort, they know. The Americans have almost nothing left to oppose them. "Russell, we're going in. Pick your target and make it count. We probably won't get a second pass." They dive through the bomber formation like meteors, guns blazing. Wagner's target, a bomber on the formation's edge, erupts in flames. He pulls up hard, the G-forces crushing him into his seat, and comes around for another pass. But Church isn't behind him. Wagner spots him 2,000 feet below, his P-40 trailing black smoke and white glycol vapor, a death signature written across the sky. A 0 appears from nowhere, closing for the kill. "Russell, break right, break right." Church's P-40 responds sluggishly, mortally wounded. The 0 fires a long burst. Church's canopy explodes in a shower of plexiglass and blood. The P-40 noses over into its final dive. Wagner goes temporarily insane. He points his nose at the 0 and fires even though he's out of range, burning through precious ammunition in impotent rage. The 0 pilot, confident and contemptuous, turns to face him. It's a mistake, the last one he'll make. Wagner has learned the bitter arithmetic of air combat. Trade altitude for speed, speed for position, position for one perfect shot. The 0 fills his gun sight for exactly 1 second. Wagner fires 16 rounds. 15 miss. 1 doesn't. It passes through the 0's cockpit at head level. The fighter continues flying straight and level for almost a minute, its pilot now a passenger, before gently nosing over into the jungle. Wagner is alone now, 1 P-40 against 8 remaining bombers. His ammunition counter shows 40 rounds remaining, 6 rounds per gun, 1 second of firing time. He makes a choice that isn't really a choice at all. He climbs directly beneath the bomber formation, where their defensive guns can't reach. At point-blank range, he fires his last bullets into the lead bomber's belly. The bomber staggers, drops out of formation, but doesn't go down. Wagner's guns click empty. But he's not done. In an act of desperation or inspiration later, he won't remember which Wagner pulls up hard, bringing his P-40's propeller within feet of the bomber's tail. The Japanese tail gunner's eyes go wide behind his goggles. Wagner could count his teeth if he wanted to. The bomber pilot, rattled, breaks formation. The others follow, their bomb run disrupted. They drop their ordnance early, into empty jungle instead of onto the packed roads. It's a small victory, measured in hundreds of lives not lost today. Wagner lands at Bataan Field, a grand name for a dirt strip hacked from the jungle with his fuel gauge reading empty. Not low, empty. The engine quits while he's still rolling. He climbs out to find his crew chief from Del Carmen, Martinez, who has somehow materialized here like a guardian angel with grease-stained wings. "Captain, you look like hell." Wagner catches his reflection in the P-40's canopy. His flight suit is salt-stained with sweat, torn in 3 places. He's lost 15 pounds in 2 weeks. His hands shake constantly now, a fine tremor like an old man with palsy. "Any word on reinforcements?" Wagner asks, though he knows the answer. "Yeah, they're coming." Martinez lies kindly. "Any day now." That night, Wagner attends a briefing in General Wainwright's headquarters, a concrete bunker that smells of mildew and defeat. The maps on the wall show Japanese forces surrounding Bataan like a noose. Wainwright, gaunt and hollow-eyed, addresses the assembled officers. "Gentlemen, we're going to make our stand here. Every day we hold is a day America has to prepare. We're not fighting to win anymore. We're fighting to buy time." After the briefing, Wainwright pulls Wagner aside. "Captain, I'm told you have 1 operational fighter left." "Yes, sir. 1 P-40, and enough fuel for maybe 3 more sorties." "Then make them count, son. Make them remember we were here." Wagner salutes and turns to leave, but Wainwright calls him back. "Wagner! How old are you?" 25, sir." Wainwright nods slowly. 25. When I was 25, I was worried about making captain. You're trying to hold off an empire with 1 airplane." He pauses. "I'm putting you in for the Distinguished Service Cross. I'd rather have 10 P-40 seconds and pilots to fly them, sir." "Wouldn't we all, son? Wouldn't we all?" Outside, artillery rumbles like distant thunder. Closer now. Always closer. December 24, 1941, 1100 hours. Bataan Field, Philippines. Christmas Eve in hell. Wagner sits in the cockpit of the last operational P-40 inches, the Philippines, serial number 41 to 5205, the same bird he'd flown that first morning. She's more patch than airplane now, held together by 100-hour wire, fabric strips, and the kind of determination that borders on delusion. Around him, the ground crews have decorated the revetments with makeshift Christmas ornaments, shell casings painted green and red, parachute silk cut into angels. Someone has hung a sign on the operations shack. "Merry Christmas from the Bataan Flying Club. Membership." 1. The joke isn't funny anymore. Yesterday, they lost their second-to-last P-40 when Lieutenant Sam Gracchio tried to take off with a patched hydraulic line. The line burst at 50 feet. Gracchio survived the crash, but the P-40 burned down to its engine block. Now it's just Wagner and this one tired machine against the Empire of Japan. A messenger arrives, out of breath. "Captain Wagner, sir. Major Krieger needs you at headquarters." Immediately. The headquarters bunker is chaos. Radio operators chain smoke while transcribing messages no one wants to hear. Staff officers move colored pins on maps, each movement representing another retreat, another position lost. Wagner finds Major Krieger hunched over aerial reconnaissance photos. "Buzz, look at this." Krieger points to a photograph showing Lehman Bay. "The Japs are massing for another landing, maybe 2 divisions. If they get ashore here, they'll cut Bataan in half." "What do you want me to do about it?" "Write them a strongly worded letter. I want you to make them think we still have an air force. 1 pass over their fleet. Let them see you. Make them hesitate." Wagner studies the photo. At least 40 ships. Destroyers, transports, landing craft. "That's a suicide run." "Everything's a suicide run now," Krieger says quietly. "But maybe, just maybe, seeing an American fighter will make them think we've got more hidden away. Buy us another day, maybe 2. Wagner heads back to his P-40. Martinez has somehow scrounged 600 rounds of ammunition, a full load for once. "Where'd you find these?" "You don't want to know, Captain. Let's just say some anti-aircraft gunners are going to be throwing rocks." As Wagner straps in, a Filipino boy, maybe 12, approaches with something wrapped in banana leaves. "For you, sir. Merry Christmas." Inside is a piece of bibinka, traditional Christmas rice cake. Wagner hasn't eaten since yesterday. The cake tastes like hope. He takes off at 1,400 hours, climbing slowly to preserve fuel. The P-40's engine runs rough, missing on at least 1 cylinder, maybe 2. Oil pressure fluctuates wildly. The altimeter sticks at 8,000 feet, though he knows he's higher. This machine shouldn't be flying, By all rights, by all physics, it should fall from the sky, but it doesn't. It keeps climbing, carried aloft by will and maybe something more. At 15,000 feet, Wagner levels off and turns toward Lehman Bay. The coastline spreads before him, beautiful and terrible. The invasion fleet fills the bay like a cancer spreading through blue water. He counts 43 ships, his one P-40 against 43 ships. David had better odds against Goliath. He pushes the stick forward and begins his dive. The airspeed needle climbs past 400. The entire aircraft shakes like it's coming apart. Through the vibration, through the oil smearing across his windscreen, he picks his target, a transport ship, probably carrying 2,000 soldiers. At 1,000 feet, anti-aircraft fire erupts from every ship. The sky turns black with flak bursts. Tracers rise like deadly fireworks. A shell explodes so close Wagner feels the heat through his canopy. Shrapnel peppers his wings. The P-40 lurches, recovers, keeps diving. 500 feet. He fires everything, all 6 guns roaring. The transport's deck explodes in sparks and splinters. He sees men diving overboard. A fuel tank detonates. Black smoke pillars into the sky. Wagner pulls out at 50 feet, so low his prop wash makes rooster tails in the water. Every ship in the fleet is firing at him now. The air is solid with lead and steel. A 20mm shell punches through his right wing. Another takes off half his rudder. The P-40 flies like a shopping cart with a broken wheel, but it flies. He makes it to the coastline, turns, and incredibly, insanely, goes back for another pass. This time he chooses a destroyer, raking it from stern to stem. The destroyer's captain, either brave or stupid, turns to pursue, actually chasing a fighter plane with a warship. As Wagner climbs away, he looks back. Several ships are firing at empty sky, at phantom American fighters that exist only in their imagination. Smoke columns rise from 2 transports. The invasion fleet has stopped its advance, milling in confusion. They're wondering, if the Americans can still launch fighter attacks, what else can they do? The P-40 makes it halfway back to Bataan before the engine seizes. No warning, no gradual decline. One moment it's running, the next it's not. Wagner has 8 seconds to pick a landing spot, a narrow beach bordered by jungle.